When I first heard about Mahara sculpture park and pottery, I was thinking a simple garden with a few sculptures dotted among the trees. But stepping into this place, it just blew my mind. It's a place where art, native bush, and Heather's creative minds come together with a lot of care and imagination behind it. Now, Martin's Food Forest is part of this garden, which I filmed before, and there's a video on my channel about this. But this time, we're here to explore the rest of this amazing place and hear the story of Heather's dream coming into life.
I look at myself as a spiritual being more than anything, and I'm having a human experience and learning how to grow and how to accept and to be. And as a young girl, I went off to Coromandel to live at Barry Brickles with my then husband, Bryce. And the love of pots and clay, the love of gardens came about through the meeting with Barry. He was incredibly eccentric, mad as a meat axe, and wonderful. He didn't teach. We lived at his house. He didn't teach. He just did his work, and we could follow him round and learn by example. So we learnt to mix our clay, foot wedge in big concrete troughs, learnt to fire kilns, to collect the clay, to dig it from his railway. And it was just such a passion. And the other thing he loved was steam, which I've never got into, and native plants. So he reforested his whole block of land in Coromandel with his railway running through it now. And the love of collecting seedlings and growing on and reforesting developed that total love of garden for me, and the love of clay, and the totally different lifestyle from the conservative materialistic lifestyle that didn't suit me. So he showed me a lot of things, and one of the comments that he made, one of the sayings he had that has stayed with me all my life is, it's not the thing but how. So it's not the thing you think about, whether you're sweeping a road or whether you're making a beautiful pot, it's the attitude and the how behind it that's important. So it can be anything. So it's showing that if you have passion in your life behind what you're doing, then you live quite a full life and you grow as a spiritual being. And it's away from materialism. It's not about making money and becoming rich and wealthy and having the fastest car. And it's just the humble way of working at home and making what you love and doing what you love. So from Barry's, we came on to a property at Kootunu and built a kiln there. Then we came to this property and had kilns here. And then this Mahara became a different thing. Bryce went his way and I went mine. So then Mahara began with very much a female version of Brickle, a feeling of that it's not the thing but how running through my life. So this standing stone here was part of a challenge I was given from a friend of mine, Mike O'Donnell, who was running a course in Hamilton, and he got the people there to make a standing stone, any shape, any style, whatever you liked. And then he gave this thing to me so I could work through processes too. And the idea is the first third is your past. So that you're burying, get rid of that. And when you're thinking any issues that come up in your past, you grab a piece of clay and you make a little sculpture. And it's the feeling of what you had at the time. You don't think I'm going to make this or that. You just form something quickly and put it to one side. And then this piece is your now. And so you do the same with that. Whatever feelings come up, whatever you need to clear, you make something. And then the last piece is your future. So you then add whatever you want to the stone. I've got words all inside there, so and they're just for me to know. And then that stone is left to dry in your workshop and then trolleyed out here, and you build a straw kiln. So it's fired on site. It's a fabulous process, and it's exciting for other people too. My grandchildren help fire this. And so all your little pieces are tucked in there. The kiln is built out to about this size out from it, and it's in pieces. It's straw and it's clay and it's paper mache, and you build it up and build it up. And as you build it up, you backfill between the stone and here with wood, and you just keep building it up and up and up until it comes at least that high above the top, and all backfilled with wood. 2 little fire boxes either side, and you fire very, very, very slowly because this stone is just clay dried, so it's fairly fragile and brittle, and you fire slowly so it doesn't explode. And then once you've had several hours of firing, the flame starts to come up through the kiln, and you can let it go, let it rip, and the kids love it when they can start shoving in wood. And then you have flame coming out the top like this, which is absolutely exciting. You have a tent set up somewhere, all your family round, and you have fine food and wine, and it's just a glorious way to fire a pot. And anyone can do this in their garden, so long as no one minds all the smoke. With Mahara, we came to live here in probably 1973, so a long time ago, with a couple of young children. And Mahara was the name of the old gold mine. So it was the Mahara Royal, and that's on the property behind where I am now. We came here to a 28-acre block, and then that's since been subdivided. And Mahara, I love the name because the Maha and Ra are mother, father, son. And as in an Eastern philosophy, you've got Maharishi. So it's spirit. It's again what I feel inside myself. So I had to keep that name Mahara. And Mamapaki, the mountain that we have just across the road, that's to remember. And so it's very important to remember who and what we really are as spiritual beings rather than material beings. So we have a material body, sure, but our essence is spirit. So to live in amongst Mahara and Mamapaki is just perfect for me. And most things I do, I like to add that connotation to them, and so that other people, when they come here, can get that feeling too. So the garden started quite a few years after, once my children had left home, the garden started to develop, and it's just gone on for years really. It's like Topsy, it just grows. So the labyrinth was something I just had to have in the garden once I read about its purpose. And the labyrinth's used in prisons, it's used in hospitals, psychiatric places, because it helps people to go and walk the labyrinth. It gives them an inner feeling. So you walk into it and you're actually releasing any negative energy, releasing things you want to let go of as you go into the middle. And people do tend to think it spirals. It doesn't. It comes out and it goes back and it comes out. And you can feel it in your solar plexus area when you're walking it and you change direction. And so you're releasing as you're going in. When you're in the middle, you're drawing in to your being. all the new energy and new light and new seeing, and you walk out with that. So you come out of there and you know something has happened, and it does. And children love it. They get really excited in there and they have to run it and giggle, and it's just lovely. But it's 558 box hedging that I grew from wee cuttings like this, and then it's taken all these years to get that high. It was planted in 2007, and now it's this high. It had Buxus blight for a time, and it took a lot of spraying it to get rid of the blight, and but it's come back again, and it's wonderful. Back in 1996, which seems like eons ago, I drew a little rough plan of what I'd like to have on this garden, and I wanted to develop a garden. I had fences quite up close around my house, and I kept digging them out, digging out all the fence posts, doing new holes and extending the fences. And then I'd think, no, that's still claustrophobic. I have to do it again. So I must have removed the fences 3 or 4 times until finally I thought, take them down, get rid of them. So I had a horse and I had sheep. They all had to go so I could develop a garden without stock eating it all. And I wanted a garden that people could come to and get an experience. People do come here now, and so it's wonderful that that's happened. They come and they sometimes cry when they leave, or they come up to me and thank me because they've got a feeling of who and what they truly are when they're here. And it's not something they usually get from going shopping or going to the supermarket, or living their material lives every day. They're not being in touch with us. And so they're just sometimes quite overwhelmed and ask me, do I know what I've got here? And of course I do. And that was my initial plan when I wrote out this rough plan of native planting, of tracks, of a labyrinth, spirals, anything that awakens a spiritual nature in someone. And I wanted included in the garden. So I just gradually started doing it. And with the help of my daughters, they were wonderful. They've always helped in the planting of the labyrinth, in building brick pathways. They've just been great. So yeah, the garden has just gradually developed, and that was 1996. So there's quite a development since then, and it will go on. It's never finished, you know, just more and more planting and sculpture. And the love of sculpture in the garden is, I just love it. I just have to buy more. And if I support other people in buying their work, I like that too, because it becomes very eclectic. This is another outdoor firing that you can do yourself. Build the straw kiln over it and then fire it. This was in honour of my mum and dad, and at the time my father had passed and he fired in this light colour, and my mum was still living, and so she's all toasty and looking warm, and I thought that was quite interesting. That tile was made together and it split apart, so that was quite significant. And just our family and my mum and dad hugging each other. My father was very much into Maori culture and language, and so a little bit of Maori patterning in there. It split, the kiln collapsed on one side of it, so that all had to be repaired after, and that was the same sort of firing with grandkids firing it for me. The fireboxes came out to about here on either side of it, and they're only small, and you have to fire it for probably 8 hours at least before you let the flame go through. So that was another one just to honour my parents, who were gorgeous people. So I had quite a plan for the garden, and the plan was to make a larger garden, not just for myself, but for other people to come to. So over the years, I've written out in a book here what I'd like to achieve in each year. And so far, most of those things have been achieved. There's a few that haven't. I always wanted the toilet for the public to be like a Taj Mahal and have it all mosaiced. That one hasn't happened. It may and it may not. But yeah, just planning and knowing where I wanted to plant, growing lots of plants on to share, to replant natives on this place, which I have done on the top of the sculpture walk. There's 20 kauri. There's Rimu up there. There's Kaikatea. There's heaps of plants. And I go off with a spade and dig a hole somewhere and put in another plant and then forget it because it just grows on by itself. So there's always planning and yeah, and achieving what you set out to do and being open to changing it at any point. So these were my sculptures when we had our lockdown with COVID, and I had plenty of clay in the workshop and we couldn't go anywhere or do anything. So I started to make things that represented what I was feeling about the atrocity of COVID. And so this front one has got the star, represented China in the circle. So that was that. Corona is the crown, and that was the coronavirus. Then for all those that passed, we needed a spirit boat. So the boat there is so people could sail away. The big pod at the back was the hope of new life. The woman in the middle was going, what the? And this is like a waka shape, so it could sail away and clear that whole energy. The sticks at the back are like on a marae, on a par site. They're a protection to hold the energy, and I made these throughout that whole COVID time and had to put them in here and keep them. They were not for sale. And with the plants in the garden, like I've got a huge amount of bromeliads and clivia, I've got orchids. All these plants have been given to me. People have phoned up and said, would you like a trailer load of bromeliads? And I go, yes, please. And then I have to think, oh, where am I going to plant them? But it's the giving, and we haven't even put that out to anyone. It's just they ring and say, I can give you this, I can give you that. There's a bootload of staghorn ferns. Would you like them? And I just have to go, yes, yes. But at the same time, I grow on a lot of seed and cutting, not just natives, but all sorts of plants. And I love to be able to give those away. So there's a flow on of what comes into the garden. Even with sculpture, I'm given sculpture. So, and it's just a result, I think, of the intent behind the garden as a sharing thing, and enhancing other people's lives, and they in turn enhance mine. So it works really, really well. So I built this kiln many years ago. It's a Frederick Olsen fast fire, and it has two fireboxes, one behind me here where the cabinet is, and another one in amongst all the junk on that side of the kiln. My daughter and I used to fire it. She made pots and I did too. But to fire this, you need about 15 or 16 hours available, and pine slab cut into quite thin pieces, short pieces about so long and quite thin. And it is just super effort. You can't leave it once it's firing, because if you stop stoking, you drop your temperature. So you've got to be here for the long haul, and it's quite hard work. So I don't do that anymore, but I love bricks and I love the kiln, so it just stays. So this is my pathway up to my shop display and to my pottery. Money in the box there, and then you're welcome to go right round the garden. And if you come round this way, you'll see my shop display with my green men faces, my ladies, and the pottery in here is all things I've made. Martin does the stone sculpture, so he doesn't sell any of his work. He's always open to anyone making an offer on it though. And my work changes from day to day. These pots are a little friend I have who does throwing work. Martin does the photos. And the elephants, they're a very, very popular one, the 3 different sizes, and I've been making those for years. These are also very popular, the tuatara balls, and the actual tuataras themselves are one I've done for a long, long time, and I'm quite known for those. So these stands are made out of leaves, of magnolia leaves, and you pick the magnolia leaves when they drop on the ground, or you can pick them off the tree and just put them over reinforcing rod and then leave them to dry. So these ones were done quite a long time ago. They have become all skeletal now, and I just add more. I can take this ball off the top, and I made the balls and then add them so as they shrink down. So there's 3 of them here, and this has got even more like wafer biscuits here, but leaves, and that's something children can do easily, and they love to do it. To have a barrow load of leaves and to build something like this. So you can use anything really for sculpture. We've got this one to the north, south, east and west. And there's a little pottery bowl at the bottom of each one of those of the significant corners. It's super magical out here in a night. These are all made of hypertufa. They were made on a manuka frame and then netting over the framework, which they look quite fabulous when you see them just in their ghost-like form. And then hypertufa gradually worked into them and over the top. And as you can see, this one has got no moss on it. It's only been repaired for a couple of months. One of the branches off the eucalyptus tree fell down on it and flattened it to the ground. So I had to rebuild it. But it will build up the lichen, and I have put rubbed yogurt into them to help with the moss form. So a magical space to come in and do ritual work in. Planting a garden is just a wonderful thing, whether it's your fruits and veggies, which is what started off here. I had a small potage garden in the front of the house, and when my girls were here, that garden was all we needed. It was full of herbs and flowers and bean poles, and it was great. And since then, the gardens have expanded so much, and the food forest has developed, and that's awesome to grow your own food and organic food. The sharing of a garden and the getting in touch with the earth and who you are is why I think gardens are so very important. And if you're in a little apartment and can only have potted plants, that's good, because you've got an essence and a spirit with plants. Many, many years ago, there was a book called The Magic of Findhorn, and it was in the top of Scotland. And the little community there started to communicate with their plants, and they recorded and noted everything that had been done and what they felt. And if they heard to go and get compost or make some, they did it. And they had 40-pound cabbages, and they had roses flowering in the snow. So they were working with nature and the nature spirits. And I've always felt strongly about that. And that's in the sharing. You get people giving you plants, you give things back out, or exchange veggies or cuttings. It's so much more in touch with who and what we are than being wound up in a material life where everything's commercial, everything's about money. You lose touch with who you are. You suddenly want flash clothes and flash cars and flash everything, and that means for nothing. It just doesn't. Whereas if you're sharing from plants and gardens, your heart comes alive.